$10 says this call is less frustrating than the last one.
I would bet so. I'm frustrated. I was just listening.
Yeah, the audience, different audience members at different times were doing different hand gestures. So your frustration is not alone.
Oh, Hugh came into it wanting to be a bully.
I did, or he did.
He did.
No, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. That it probably didn't help that he got so agitated so quickly when I interrupted him. But
well, no, that's what I'm saying. I think he came into it agitated. I don't think it was you guys at all. Yeah.
I assume the best in people. But what did you want to talk about today, Matt?
Well, briefly, really quick, I was inspired to call in the first place by Freud, and I just wanted to send a big thanks to him because his bravery has been very inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. See, you're doing good. For a split second, I could have sworn you were going to say I was inspired to call in by Jesus, and I was going to be really off, but no. So you're inspired to call in. Shout out to Freud, but.
I was hoping I could briefly tell my story of why I deconverted.
Oh, well, congratulations. And yes, of course.
All right. Well, thank you. I was Christian most of my life. I'm 33 now, and it's only been about 10 months or so since I deconverted.
Do you know the day? Because you can celebrate your atheist birthday.
Not specifically. I think it was in March, and it was largely watching episodes of Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience that helped. So thank you very much for that.
You guys are doing very good work.
Yeah, I agree.
De-preaching to the masses.
When I was 12, I had a bona fide experience with God. A full-on God entered my life in a roaring way. When people talk about how those experiences have to be genuine, I feel the need to share my story because I think I'm pretty good proof that the human brain is capable of some amazing things all on its own. I was dealing with bullying really, really heavily.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm hardly alone in that. Mm-hmm. It eventually, when I was 12, reached the point where I decided I was going to commit suicide. And the night before I was going to go in with it, I prayed. I prayed for a long time. I fell asleep praying and sobbing because I wanted a reason to live. And I had a dream that night where I met an amazing woman and I fell in love with her. And I'd never felt that before in my waking life. So at the end of the dream, this message just imprinted itself in my mind. This, if you want this, you can't give up. If you ever want this, you have to stay. And I believed that God had answered my prayers. And I met that woman years later. We were friends for years. We got married. We were together for 10 years before we married, come to that. And over most of those 10 years, even though I wasn't really willing to look at it, she became more and more abusive all the time. It was emotional for the longest time. Eventually, it became physical and finally sexual. And that's when I left. It's leaving my wife that largely challenged a lot of my beliefs. My beliefs were centered around love, around divine love, around these kinds of gifts only being possible if the universe had intrinsic order to it. And it was realizing that those beliefs kept me in a relationship where I was tortured. We all want to believe so much in the things that we core our lives around, like love. But as Mark McGee just pointed out in the chat, what is divine love? You know? I also think I have an answer to Freud when he was wondering, well, what do you replace God with? Because I was lucky. I grew up on Star Trek and I grew up on secular humanism. Yeah. My morals have never been challenged in losing my faith. You know, I never wanted to get into heaven. That was never a goal. I thought you should be doing good because you want to do good. Yeah. You should be doing good because you want this world to be a better place.
Yeah.
And we can make ourselves believe the most amazing things to defend beliefs that we feel that we need, like God. And when you lose those things, there's still the world that you always knew. there's still the world where I could go outside and stare up at the stars and wonder at the hugeness of the universe, at the unbelievableness of all of it. And none of that disappeared when I decided to finally admit God isn't real. And it's been knowing people like you guys, knowing people who are intelligent and out here fighting for a better world, not because of a reward, but because that world is worth believing in. That is it always has been bigger than any of our conceptions of God. The world we are building together is bigger than any conception of God anyone has ever come up with. And I look at the stars when I need to remember that. And Frode, you're in great territory for looking at the night sky. Go check out the Milky Way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know very little of astronomy and don't have a sufficient understanding of cosmology or anything beyond it, evidently. Yeah, but the world is a wonderful place, and I'm glad that you were able to make it through those rough times in your life and come out the other side a better and probably stronger person.
The other reason I'm calling is that a lot of that abuse has left me very socially isolated, and this is a community that I want to be a part of. And this is me putting my voice out there because I haven't been willing to let my voice be out there for almost 10 years now. And I want to be a part of this community. Specifically, I want to make secular humanist video games because I've wanted to make video games my whole life, and I think there's a market for us.
Yep. I don't play a lot of video games, but I will play a lot more in direct relation to how much the subject matter is interesting to me. There is a video game that I played very poorly when I was working with Eric to potentially release like a live stream of us, oh, look, it's these two, schlemiels that we know that are atheists playing video games. Look how terrible Jamie is at video games. Isn't that hilarious? And we played The Binding of Isaac, which is interesting to me because it clearly has a religious context and is something I'm interested in.
Pretty eviscerates Christianity, I would say.
Yep, a little bit. At least, at the very least, televangelists. So, yeah. So, I mean, a couple things. One, I look forward to playing your first game. And two, I mean, sure, there's some reasonable doubt about whether or not you're going to end up creating it. I look forward to playing your first game. You should do it, which is actually how I encouraged Eric to release the first episode of his podcast, the Atheist Podcast, which is out now. Yeah, Eric is thanking me in the crowd for mentioning it. It is. It's good. But yeah, that, and there is, an online community that we have fostered and that we grow, and that's very positive. And I would encourage you to get in touch with us there. Send us an email.
I think I'm going to I think I'm going to head directly to the Reddit page as soon as I'm done here, and I'm going to talk to people about what kind of video games they'd want to see. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much. Mandisa, I'm really glad that you were on today and that I got a chance to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for calling in, and thank you for sharing your experience.
Yeah, thank you. It's why we do the show. And what I will say is, if you'd like to join Matt on the Reddit, it's reddit.com/r/talkheathen, coincidentally enough. But thank you for calling in, Matt. And thank you for sharing your story. And, just like Frood's story helped, inspire you and helped you get to a place where you could put your voice out there, you putting your voice out there will help as well.
Mm-hmm.
You guys mind if I call back at some point?
Oh, well, we hate repeat callers here. To be clear, Rob is a repeat caller, so yes, please, please do call. Give us balance out the nature of our calls here. Hey.
I've also got the distant idea that I might call into Atheist Experience and challenge Matt Dillahunty at some point, being willing to play devil's advocate. But, oh, man, is that a scary prospect.
Oh, you're fine. He's nice. If you ever make it to Austin, let us know in advance. We'll make sure we all gather around and throw a parade or something. But yeah, thank you for calling in and sharing your story, Matt.